The Orlando Magic passed the challenge of their final preseason game, how they started to tie it all together today on Locked On Magic.
You are Locked On Magic, your daily Orlando Magic podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And you are indeed Locked On Magic. Today is October 19th, 2024. My name is Philip Rossman-Reich. I'm the senior writer over at OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, follow me on Twitter at PhilipRR_OMD. On today's episode of Locked On Magic, the Orlando Magic faced the challenge of their final preseason game, how they passed the biggest test and showed us they're ready to tie it all together. We'll take a look at that coming up here in just a moment. First, we want to thank you again for making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. No matter when you listen to us, whether it's first in the morning, whether it's right when we upload, we truly appreciate you making Locked On Magic part of your day every day. Remember, there's a great Locked On podcast covering every single team in the NBA. Just search for Locked On and the team you're looking for, the Locked On Podcast Network. It's your team every day. Today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. This final preseason game for the Orlando Magic, obviously, it has a lot writing on it because we haven't seen them play. It has a lot writing on it because I can't sit here as the analyst, as the expert, whatever you want to call me, and say, this is where this team is heading. We don't have a progress check. We don't have a status check. And while the vibes have been great at training camp, we need games to tell us where this team is at, even if preseason's imperfect. Like I've said throughout the week, preseason's kind of about moments. It's about seeing these little things that are signs of what the team's going to be and what the team's going to do. And this final preseason game especially, we have to figure out who this team is, what they're going to be about, and whether they're ready to step up to the plate. What these games do, because you're going up against another opponent, it gives you a little hint of adversity. And so we're talking about all the big moments, all the fun moments, all the things that make us feel like the Magic can pull this thing together. We will talk about that shortly. But there was one big moment in this game that defined success for this team, that tells you they are ready for the regular season, because we could easily dismiss some of this as preseason stuff. And maybe it is. But one thing absolutely defines this team and shows us they're ready. Jamahl Mosley revealed to us after the game at halftime, after the Magic gave up 35 points in the second quarter and just frankly looked very sloppy on both ends after a really strong start to the game from the starting group. Jamahl Mosley said in the halftime locker room, he and the team challenged themselves to come out and play with the intensity and focus that they know they're going to need. To come out and look like the Orlando Magic, or look like the regular season Orlando Magic. Here's something direct. Here's something that is very clear. Not some preseason fudginess, not some, we'll get him next time, or we'll save this for practice or work on this in practice. No, something direct to accomplish this goal. And so the Magic came out and blew the doors open. The Magic came out and held the Sixers to 16 points in the third quarter. Scored 27 themselves. Took what was a close game, a 3-point game at halftime, and turned it into a runaway. Again, it's preseason. Does the score really matter? Well, yes and no. It's better to win than it is to lose. And it's certainly when you make this kind of a statement or say this is what you're going to do, you better be able to do it. Here, the Magic found their identity, turned it up to 11, played with intensity, fire, and focus, and got their work done. As the Magic won 114-99 over the Sixers. It's something small. It's not the biggest thing in the world. It's not me sitting here saying, oh, they're ready. It's, number 1 seed, here we come. No. But it's a simple thing. It's a simple thing to say, we need to lock in, and then you do it. And you do it and dominate. It's an understanding of we have the will. We have the ability to correct our mistakes in real time against an opponent. And you do it. Because while the Magic maybe needed that moment and needed that come to Jesus moment or wake up call or whatever you want to call it, they needed to show that A, they could hold themselves accountable to their standard, and B, maybe most importantly right now, prove that they can play to that standard. Prove that they can play at that height, at that intensity. It's the preseason. They know, I've said this throughout the course of the last 2 weeks, the Magic know they have it in reserve. They know it's there. They know they don't have to show it. They know they don't have to prove anything to us in this preseason. They need to use this time to get themselves ready, whatever that looks like. But here it was. The Magic looking at the situation and saying, that's not good enough for us. That's not how we want to play. And then challenging themselves to say, let's change it. And then executing it. And then doing it. This is the most important thing. If there's one thing we should take away from this game, it is that the Magic set a goal and accomplished it. As small as it might be, as inconsequential as it might be, they understood they controlled their own destiny and then made the change to do it. That's going to come in handy. That confidence, that swagger, that accountability is going to matter a whole lot more in a couple months, in a couple weeks perhaps, when this team has to meet that standard again and maybe fall short, maybe needs a reminder from themselves to get back on the right foot, to get back to that level that they know they can play at. That's the challenge the Magic passed in this final preseason game. We'll get to the box score. We'll get to the individual moments. We'll get to all the strings the Magic are trying to tie together to make this team. Because that's what we wanted to see in the preseason too. That's what we wanted to see in this final game. The Magic have been working on so many things in camp in the first 2 preseason games. Let's start tying it together and showing us what this team's going to look like. This is the most important string of all. The will, the determination, the ability to achieve goals, to set marks, to hold yourself accountable, and accomplish a goal. That's what the Magic did Friday night at the Kia Center. They had a great time. They had a big game. But they set a challenge. They set a mark for themselves. And they passed it. And it's the first time they've had to do it this year. It will not be the last. Because the Magic are starting to tie all those pieces together. We'll talk about what else the Magic tied together and how the Magic got the win. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by friends over at Hims. Guys, sometimes intimate moments happen spontaneously, and you always have to be ready when they happen. Things happen during the course of a game. You got to be ready. Well, when you need to be on your A game, Hims is there to give you the boost you need to make sure you pass that challenge. Your schedule is busy, and sometimes you don't take care of everything you need to take care of. So you don't have time to go to the doctor's office to get the treatment that you need. Hims with Hims, you could get a personalized ED treatment without stepping outside of your door. Guys, if you ever feel like you need a little boost, Hims has it for you. Hims is changing men's healthcare, providing you with access to affordable sexual health treatments from the comfort of your couch. Hims provides access to a range of doctor-trusted ED treatments like chewable hard mints and Viagra and Cialis and their generics for up to 95% cheaper. The process is 100% online, and there's no need for uncomfortable doctor's visits. Just answer a series of questions on their site, and a medical provider will determine the right treatment option for you. If prescribed, your medication ships directly to you in discreet packaging for free. No insurance is needed, and one low price covers everything from treatments to ongoing care. With hundreds of thousands of trusted subscribers, Hims can help you find the ED option that works for you. Start your free online visit today at hims.com/lockedon. That's Hims, HIMS.com/lockedon for your personalized ED treatment options. Hims.com/lockedon. Now, in my very hoarse voice, here's the medical info. The products mentioned are chewable compounded products which are not approved by or verified for safety or effectiveness by the FDA. Prescriptions require an online consultation with a healthcare provider who will determine if appropriate. Restrictions apply. See website for details and important safety information. Subscription required. Prices varies based on product and subscription plan. Check it out today at hims.com/lockedon. I am sorry, my voice is very hoarse for some reason today. I don't know if I'm coming down with a cold or whatnot, but this final preseason game, again, I say this every year, and this will be the last time I get to say it this year. What I like to see in the preseason is that the team progressively gets better, that the team improve on things that they need to improve on, that they just trend in the right direction. And most years when the Magic don't trend in the right direction, I'll poo-poo and say it's all just preseason. That's whatever. Let me say this very, very clearly. I'll probably repeat this on Monday. The Magic got better every game of this preseason. The game against the Spurs was better than the game against the Pelicans. This game was better than the game against the Spurs. The Magic used their practice time very, very well. They looked intense. They looked together. They really looked refreshed. And obviously, like, now we're preparing for the regular season. And we want to take all these little moments and these little strands and start to, like, see the full picture come together. And that's, like, honestly, like, that's what we saw Friday night against the Sixers. That's what we saw come together. The Magic look like a team that knows who they are, knows what they're trying to run, and it's not perfect by any means yet. There was a lot of sloppy moments. There's a lot to clean up and refine. But it was a team that looked like they understood, okay, we do this, we do this, we do this, and really drilled and worked it. Like, look, we know the defense is going to be really good. But the Magic were flying around. They switched but stayed aggressive. Jalen Suggs was picking guys up full court and just playing like a maniac. I turned to Mason watching his first Magic game live in person, and I said, hey, Jalen Suggs is a maniac. Like, this guy is just, this is him being normal. The Magic weren't perfect. Turnovers were still an issue. Jamahl Mosley would agree with that. Although, 7 turnovers among the starters, not terrible, not great. 7 of the 17 turnovers. They can still work to get that number down. They still dribble themselves into traps. There's still some missed threes, some guys that aren't quite in rhythm yet. Franz especially. We'll talk a little bit about him in a minute. But the Magic seemed like completely in control. They were down early in the game, and their defense was a little bit rough early, but once they settled in, once they got their defense going, they were just in complete control of this game on both sides. They really kind of dictated what they wanted to do and how they were going to play this game. Their defense was swarming. Just a great defensive effort. You could see the effort. You could see the intensity. The details are still kind of coming together, but they were making the third and fourth efforts that I didn't think they were making against San Antonio. They played really well, and you could see how dangerous this team can be. And really, it was both groups. It wasn't just the starters who played extended minutes. Everyone played about 24 minutes. It wasn't just the starters. It was everybody playing with this really big intensity. The biggest change, though, I think, is on offense. We saw it a little bit in the first two games, but I felt like on offense, the Magic were still kind of stagnant in those first two games. Still relying on Paolo just kind of creating everything. In this game, the offense was like fluid. Wasn't always perfect. Didn't always get them great shots. So I'm not here saying, oh, the Magic are about to be make an offensive revolution. Absolutely not the case. Magic still can't shoot. There's still a lot of guys struggling to shoot, especially in that starting group. But the Magic are moving. They're moving bodies. They seem like they're in constant motion. They move from one, they flow from one thing to the next, looking for advantages, looking to just get the ball to guys in motion, not allowing the defense to get set. And that's seen best in the passing numbers. Orlando had 32 assists on 42 field goals. I believe they're at like 28 or 25 assists on 32 field goals. Like, they passed it a lot. Got a lot of assists. And again, it wasn't just one guy. Anthony Black had 8, was a big part of that. But everybody had a part to play. And because the Magic have such gifted passers, they're really able to move the ball really effectively. And I think it's going to be interesting to see this offense evolve and see if this stays. Now, like, there's two sides of this coin. Like, Paolo Banchero thrived in this offense. We'll talk more about the box score stuff, but he has gravity. Defenses are sucked to him, but honestly, like, he had like opportunity. He took one corner three, missed it, but he had an opportunity for 2 more. And to be in the corner for corner 3 means you aren't involved in the offense at that point because you're in the corner. You're way off on the side. It's hard to be super involved. And it just kind of shows that everybody has a role to play and that everybody's expected to to deliver something to this team. I look, again, I'm not sitting here saying the Magic's offense is just brilliant and is going to be this amazing thing all year. But it's interesting. It's evolved. It's different. It is the next, graduating to the next level of whatever it is the Magic were trying to do last year. So I like the direction that that's going in. I do think, and, they're running a lot more lobs for Wendell Carter. He was sitting in the dunker spot a lot. They were running pin downs. Like, let's talk about Franz Wagner. Didn't have the greatest game in the world. 6 points, 3 for 10 shooting, 0 for 3 from 3. Franz, though, early on, he missed his first 3 shots. But early on, they were trying to set him up with, like, post-ups, mid-range opportunities. He was trying something new. So, again, I'm not super worried about Franz. You watch Franz, he scored all 3 of his baskets on layups going to the rim. And so he missed 7 shots. I told you 3 of them were threes. 3 of them were these mid-range jumpers early in the game. That means he's 3 for 4 on the rest of his shots. Shots that he'll more likely take during the game, during regular games. He can get to the basket whenever he wants. I think he's working on other stuff. The 3-point shooting, he definitely still looks like he's pressing a little bit about it, but they're good looks. He'll, as long as he's shooting them confidently, which that's my bigger concern at this point than his actual ability to make shots. I want him to shoot confidently. That's, that kind of shows you how the offense changes a little bit. How the Magic are trying to evolve themselves into their next level, into what's next for this team. But again, this is what it's all about. How do we bring all these disparate ideas, the individuals, the team, how do we bring them all together? Anthony Black, the star of camp, like, Magic are admitting this, like, he has been the star of training camp, the biggest growth in training camp. Dude was getting downhill, getting into the paint, getting stuck, getting unstuck, making incredible passes, and complete command of the second unit. And that elevated the team. That gave them a new dynamic. That's a new string to hold on to. That's going to be my metaphor of the day, is the Magic have these disparate strings, these various strings, and they're trying to tie them all together. That's where we're at with this team. And in this final preseason game, we saw them bring some of this stuff together, put it out on the floor, show us what it looks like. And frankly, it looked really good. Like, it's preseason. There are things to clean up. They're not, they need practice time still. But they look good. Plain and simple. They look good. And there's enough there to believe that they're going to have a chance to accomplish their goals this year. Let's do what we always do after games. Let's go through the final box score. We'll get to that coming up here in just a moment. But first, today's episode of Locked On Magic is brought to you by our friends over at FanDuel. Hey, NFL fans, it is football weekend, football Saturday, and you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you placed your bets. It is a big college football Saturday today. If you want to get in on the action with some college football games, if you're looking at UCF against Iowa State over at Ames, the Knights 13.5-point dogs to the Cyclones. Can the Knights get back on track and end their losing streak? You can find that on FanDuel. Or if for my Gator fans, Florida 1.5-point home dogs to Kentucky. 1.5-point home dogs to Kentucky. DJ Lagway going to make like Chris Leak. First start against Kentucky. We'll see if he has a miracle in it for him. If basketball is more your speed, as this is a basketball podcast, they have great NBA odds, including the Orlando Magic over under 47.5 wins. Their odds to win the Southeast Division. The Magic are the favorites there and becoming more favorite as we speak. In fact, let's take a look at those odds real fast. The Magic are -140. It's actually back down there, 150 the other day. And yes, they have the odds for opening night, the Magic 1-point road dogs against the Miami Heat on Wednesday. You can find this and so much more on FanDuel, and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com, America's #1 sportsbook. Let's run through the final box scores. The Orlando Magic defeat the Philadelphia 76ers 114-99 in their final preseason game. Preseason's over. We do it for real on Wednesday, so we got that to look forward to. But look, this was a great game for the Magic. Like, again, if you were worried after the first two games, I don't think there's anything to be worried about in those two games. This is a game that should give you a lot of confidence. There's, again, Sixers didn't have Embiid, didn't have Paul George. Tyrese Maxey hit his thumb on Jalen Suggs at some point in the first quarter, didn't play the rest of the game. Like, there are a lot of things to say, okay, like, yeah, whatever. Magic still did the job. Magic still did the thing. And again, it's less about them and more about us at this point. But we got to start with Paolo Banchero. Anthony Black has probably been the surprise of training camp, or the pleasant surprise of training camp. Let's make no bones about it. Paolo Banchero looks like he is due for an incredible season. Like, he's going to be really good. And I don't think anyone's really prepared for this. And look, it's not just that he scored 21 points, not just that he was 8 for 12 from the floor, not just that he had 6 rebounds and 3 assists and just fills up the stat sheet. It's the peace and patience that he's playing with now. He said that he really liked the playoffs because the game really slowed down for him. He still looks like playoff Paolo. He still looks like the game is moving at a snail's pace and he's just controlling everything around him. It's about the way that he sits and waits and watches the defense. It's about the way that he sees where the double is coming from and then makes a pass to the open space. And the Magic doing a lot better job understanding spacing. It's Paolo knowing when it's time to attack and be aggressive and take over. The Magic They had a little bit of a slip at the end of the first quarter. Their end of their quarters were not good in this game. But then Paolo decided to just score 7 straight points. 2 quick baskets and then an and one basket. And the Magic are up 27-20 at the end of the first quarter. It's knowing when it's time to pass and when it's time to move the ball. It's knowing how to just free himself and play off the ball, as he mentioned. Paolo's going to have a very big year. This was, to me, a very impressive show. And again, just confirming what we've seen in the first 2 preseason games. He's letting everything come to him. He's not forcing very much. And he is like reaping the rewards for it. I mentioned this on an earlier pod when we talked about Paolo and who you should actually be comparing him to. The leap is coming. I wasn't sure if it would be this year. I thought it might be next year. But it sure feels like an efficiency leap is coming. A playmaking leap is coming. A leadership leap is coming. This could be the all-NBA leap for Paolo. Like, I think he is really due for a very, very big season. Franz Wagner's kind of on the opposite end of the spectrum. 6 points, 3 for 10 shooting. Like I mentioned, I felt like he, the 3-point shooting, he's definitely kind of in his own head. You could see him thinking. You could see him rushing through it. It's not confident right now. Shots very flat, coming up short. Like, you can tell that it's just not right. But I want to give Franz this credit. I think he spent his preseason trying to test where new elements of his game are that he wants to add. He wants to add a mid-range shot. That's something a lot of fans have been calling on him to do. He wants to add a little post game and do a turnaround fadeaway and do the Dirk fadeaway like that. And look, right now, it's not really working. It's not going in. He's not getting the results that maybe he deserves, maybe he should get. That's going to be the challenge for him. He's going to have to find the balance, and maybe in the regular season, he's not going to turn to that. Maybe it's not ready for the season, and that's why you have preseason, to test this stuff out, to look at this stuff and figure it out. Franz is going to have the ball in his hands a lot. His decision-making is going to be vital to this team. And I have no concern that Franz isn't going to be Franz when the games start on Wednesday. But we haven't seen in the preseason. He's working on other things that look like. Jalen Suggs, really dynamic game. 12 points, 3 for 8 shooting, 0 for 4 from 3, 6 for 7 from the foul line, 4 rebounds, 7 assists, 4 steals as well. I think these are the kind of games we're going to get used to from Jalen Suggs. But again, this is the important thing. We're going to talk about how you tie everything together. Jalen Suggs really struggled managing the team early on in the preseason, in those first preseason games. In this game, he really looked comfortable. He really looked like he was capable and able to direct where guys needed to be, to understand when the right time to attack was, when to move the ball was. Even when others were bringing up the ball, you could see him directing what play they're running and what they're doing. So Suggs got better as preseason went on. And again, that's what matters. And you trust more veteran players. They're not that veteran, but you trust more veteran players to step up and know how to get themselves ready. Suggs in this game went full defense and just went nuts on defense and was chaotic and is exactly what the Magic are going to get when the regular season starts. It's, just the preseason. So it's just like, you're still pulling all those things together. Wendell Carter played after spraining his ankle in the first preseason game. Looked really good, looked really spry. 10 points, 5 for 8 shooting, 7 rebounds. Andre Drummond did get 20 rebounds. I think Carter was coming over to help a lot. Again, just Andre Drummond was the only one getting rebounds, 5 offensive rebounds. So not like, again, he's just getting a lot of rebounds because there's misses. But I really liked where Carter was at. The Magic used him in the dunker spot a whole lot more. They're trying to set him up for lobs and trying to get him shots around the basket, trying to make him a threat around the basket. He wasn't just popping out the 3-point line. And that's obviously super valuable for this team. That's obviously super good. So I really liked Wendell Carter's game. Defensively was fine, not spectacular or anything, but again, just he's a veteran. He knows how to get himself ready. He's, coming back from injury. He looked really good, looked really healthy. So I think he'll be ready when we get to Miami on Wednesday. Off the bench, some great play off the bench. Jet Howard, really the standout, 11 points, 3 for 6 shooting, 3 for 6 on threes, so all threes, 2 for 2 from the foul line. Made his first 3 threes in the second quarter. Really set the tone, really got this team going. Just really, really, really good play from Jett Howard. He played with that second unit. I don't know if that means anything. He played in place of Cole Anthony, of all people. But if Jett Howard's shooting like this, it's going to be hard to keep him off the floor. And the thing that would keep him off the floor is his defense. But his defense has come a long way. Is he a good defender yet? No. Is he a negative defender? No. He's really worked hard on that end. You can see the effort, and effort's half the battle. So I think that one of the big questions that Jamahl Mosley will be answering on Wednesday is, will Jett Howard be in the rotation? And I kind of think there's a good chance he's going to be in the rotation, that the Magic are going to need him, that the Magic are going to see the value in his three-point shooting and stick with him. That's going to be one of the more interesting things to watch. Jett Howard played really, really well. You can tell that he put a lot of work in over the last year, used that gap year well, and is in a position to be in the rotation for a playoff team this year. We'll see how that ultimately shakes out. I think he will get his opportunity. He's played really, really well. He has earned that opportunity, at least from what we're seeing publicly. Gary Harris made all 3 of his 3-pointers to get to 9 points. Anthony Black, like I mentioned, 8 points, 8 assists. We'll not talk about the 4 turnovers, but AB playing with a ton of confidence on the ball. Everybody continues to say he's been the standout in camp, and he looked really good in this game too. Like, it's, again, just an evolution of what we've been seeing throughout the course of the preseason. AB's been really good, and it's going to be a player that looks like the Magic are going to really, really lean on, as we talked about yesterday. The Orlando Magic shoot 49.4% from floor, 32.4% from 3. That's 12 for 37. I like that they got 37 attempts. That's good. I think the number needs to be more than 35. I think that's ultimately the number they need to be at. Some quick shots, obviously some kind of like preseason heat checks throughout the course of the game. But otherwise, like, Magic's 3-pointers were usually pretty good looks, and it came in bunches. The bench is better shooting than the starters. That could be an issue down the road, but we'll see. The Magic shoot only 22 free throws, 18 for 22 from the foul line. I think that'll change. 17 turnovers for 25 points. A step forward with the number of turnovers, but still not the number the Magic want to see. Hopefully they'll be able to get that under 15 for the regular season. I think that will be important, but it's preseason. Things got sloppy. Turnover numbers were pretty low throughout the course of the game, and the deep bench came in, but there were long stretches of very sloppy play. Part of what the Magic wanted to do was play guys a little bit longer than usual, test their conditioning. We got a lot of that. We saw a lot of that in this game. And so a lot of those turnovers came when guys were like very clearly tired and a little bit exhausted, and you saw some shots miss in that period. So I'm not super worried about the turnovers. I don't think it'll be as bad as last year. I think it'll still be an issue. I think it'll still be something we're concerned about and something we have to watch. But I'm not as concerned about the turnovers as Coach Mosley is. But we'll see what it looks like on Wednesday. The Magic defeat the Philadelphia 76ers 114-99 to close out their preseason. Next time we do it for real, Wednesday in Miami, and we will see you all there. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. Of course, find me on Twitter at @PhilipRR_OMD. Subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, Himalaya, Google Play, Spotify, Odyssey, and all of the Still podcasts to your podcast-enabled listening device. For the latest on the Orlando Magic, be sure to check out OrlandoMagicDaily.com. Of course, find us there on Twitter at @OMagicDaily. And for even more Orlando Magic content, including my 3 takeaways from the game, you can check out my Patreon page, the Orlando Magic Hub, at patreon.com/Orlando Magic Hub. As always, thank you for your support. Now that you're done listening to me, be sure to check out the Locked On NBA season previews on Locked On NBA, from the East and West contenders to the potential tanking teams. A 6-episode series with everything you need to know about the NBA season. Find Locked On NBA on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. Also, a fun announcement, since you made it all the way to the end of the show. All of us at the Locked On Podcast Network are starting a brand new newsletter. You'll be able to sign up for the newsletter for Locked On Magic, get extra content from me as well as from throughout the Locked On Podcast Network. I have it currently pinned to my Twitter page at PhilipRR_OMD. Sign up there, check it out there. We start on Monday as the regular season begins. New newsletter on Locked On Magic, so you get a little bit more of me as well. There's plenty of places to read my writing and support me however you so choose. But that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank you all again for listening to today's episode of Locked On Magic. On our next episode, we'll recap the preseason a little bit, talk a little bit about big takeaways from the preseason and what we learned. We'll get to that Monday. But until then, for Orlando Magic Daily and Locked On Magic, this has been Philip Rossman-Reich. We'll see you all again next time for another episode of Locked On Magic. And of course, go Lynx.